welcome to ETAuto. The month of March 2024 has just ended and we have begun the new fiscal year 24-25. So here we are back with our monthly series where we bring to you a comprehensive view of Indian automobile industry during the year gone by. For today, we will discuss the sales performance of various segments in the domestic market, the progress of India's EV story, top highlights in the industry during the fiscal year, and key trends in terms of technology advancements and regulatory changes, and what can be expected of the new fiscal year 24-25. For this, we have with us our industry experts from different domains. So first off, we have with us Mr. Arun Malhotra, who comes with decades of experience in the industry and has worked at top managerial roles across various automotive OEMs. He's a veteran in the industry. Then we have with us Mr. Gaurav Vangaal, who's a principal analyst for light vehicle production forecasting at S&P Global Mobility. He comes with over a decade of experience in the automotive industry. Last but not the least, we have with us Mr. Nikunj Sanghi, who is the CEO of JS Fourwheel, a Rajasthan-based automobile dealership. He's been a veteran in the automobile dealer community, and he also wears the hat of past president of Federation of Automobile Dealers Association. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So to begin with, I'll first, put off the numbers that we have got from the OEMs. So for the uninitiated, we get the wholesale numbers which the automakers report on the first of every month. So these are the number of cars or two-wheelers that the OEMs, the automakers dispatch from their factories to the dealerships. So industry estimates have suggest that the domestic wholesales for the passenger vehicles have recorded 42.3 lakh units in the fiscal year FY24. That's the highest for the industry till date. But before we begin to understand the why and how of things, I would like to ask, each of our panelists, how would you sum up the performance of the auto industry during the fiscal year? Not getting too much into details, but very briefly in a line or two. First of all, I would like to begin with Mr. Vangaal.
So Shubhangi, I think to begin with, it was a wonderful year. I think it has from the high basis. If you see from last couple of years, we are doing 27% growth, 26% growth, and the growth coming out of these high bases. Extraordinary thing. Okay, now if you see our numbers, we were not many of our car makers were not expecting this kind of growth. Even analysts were not expecting the growth should go in such a high term. So it has overpassed the estimates right now. We were expecting a 5 to 8% growth, and I think we are closing with 8.7%, which is just above our estimations of S&P Global Mobility. So it was a wonderful year. We have seen a very good recovery in the economy, and I think government of India has also improved their forecast for the estimates for the economy. The fiscal deficit was in control, and I think they have reduced the fiscal deficit targets also. The policy rates was in control, and they have not damaged much to the new car buyers. So I think overall it's a wonderful year. It was a wonderful year to summarize with.
So you represent the face of the consumer. You're the first touch to the consumer. So how have you seen the industry as a whole for the fiscal?
So I think what Gaurav said is very true. I mean, what has happened this year in the auto industry is unparalleled. Almost every segment has seen growth, including two-wheelers, which was languishing for quite some time. Since COVID, two-wheelers have been languishing, but they have come back strongly, though not yet reached the peak, the pre-COVID peak. And I guess it's more because of stress at the entry level, which continues both in two-wheelers and four-wheelers. But overall, I think it's been a phenomenal year, specifically for passenger vehicles. Record numbers, which were definitely not anticipated.
And Arun, what would you like to add to this?
So I think I agree with what Gaurav and Nikunj has said. It's been a great year for the auto industry. And one of the indications I'll take beyond the numbers is the indications on stock market. In the last financial year, the Nifty has grown by 28%. But you look at Nifty Auto, it's grown by 72%. It is unbelievable. Obviously, that's also an indication of the not only the present performance, but also an indication of the future. So I think overall it's been a great year. And I think the standouts have been the three-wheeler segment, which has grown to about 40 to 50%. Two-wheelers have done well, 12 to 13%. Passenger vehicles, 8 to 9%. Overall, it's been good. Commercial vehicles could have done better. They are on a very slow single-digit growth. And one segment which is not clearly in the auto segment, but it's a good indication, is the tractor industry, which has declined by 8%. So overall, great, but there are some players where could have been better.
Right. So the overall consensus that we have got from all the three panelists is that the year was good. We did good in terms of sales. So getting to category wise, the segment wise sales, coming to Mr. Gaurav Vangaal, we'll start with the passenger vehicles. Since the last 2 years, we have seen the production significantly increase, getting better, the production lines getting better, the shortage of semiconductors and the supply chain constraints have gone better. It's a buyer's market. We are back to being the buyer's market now. And how is it going on right now? Can we expect some discounts? How is the inventory? And what is the overall scenario for the passenger vehicles?
So I think overall scenario in the last 1 year, if you see, yes, we were when we started the year, it was like that we have a long waiting periods, approximately minimum of the 6 months. But over a period of time, when the semiconductor supply improved and the supply chain become more stable, I think car makers were able to ramp up the production, and we can clearly see from the Mahindra, those who had a very high booking rates has reduced their booking rates now, and their production numbers were very good, and their sales were very good. So they have definitely declined their booking rates. But yes, overall scenario, if you say, if we also saw that how Maruti Suzuki has increased their market share this year, because they were struggling because of the semiconductor before that. Now they had also launched multiple products like Fronx and Jimny last year, and I think these people have definitely improved the market supply, and it has become a buyer's market now. And after festive season or before festive season, we have started seeing the discounts coming out of the car makers. Now, if you see today, I think every car maker is providing discounts on some of the models. There is no model which is going above the 2 years of booking period. I think only one, Toyota Innova High Cross, we understand the full hybrid for the Grand Vitara. They are on the high bookings. But overall, if you see, the waiting period has reduced. And we are moving towards the buyer side, and we expect that the discount is going to increase. But at the same time, please understand, our commodities have become expensive, and we have also seen the price hikes during the year. But the market has done well. And I think that's going to continue. We have multiple launches this year also in the next fiscal year, what is coming around. We have multiple launches, and we are going to do better what we are expecting, but it should be a very low digit growth rate because we are coming from the high base right now.
Yes. But one thing here I would like to understand, you talked about discounts. So the sales are high, but there are also discounts. So are we going to move ahead with high sales and discounts, together continuing?
See, it's a mixed bag. If you see today also the numbers posted by the car makers, major of the car makers, like those who have a significant contribution into the PV side, like Maruti, Hyundai, Tata, Mahindra, they've all posted the positive numbers. When we go around and see at the other side of the car makers, I think these car makers has not done well. And their vehicles were already available in the discounts earlier, but they have to raise their input prices also. They have to accommodate the input prices. So I think this year you will see discounts are going ahead. So we will see more discounts coming around, and after the first quarter adjustment, let's see what the production numbers come out to be after in the mid of the April. We would like to see that what are the inventory levels right now, and then accordingly we will see that how we will analyze that how the market is going to respond to the discount rates.
And would you also like to add on, because this fiscal year was the first time that we have seen the SUVs per se account for 50% of the entire market, when India was known for being a small car market, SUV share has been increasing over the years. But 50% this year we have seen for the first time. So how is the scenario for the small car market? Has it improved, or should it improve? How do you expect?
See, I really doubt about the small car market right now for at least for the short term, because we are looking at multiple product action on the SUV side. Last year, if you see, the Fronx was there. This year we will see the next Curve will be there from the Tata side. Then Mahindra also have a multiple EVs coming with the InGlow platform. So I will see the SUV market is going to dominate going forward for at least for the short term. But yes, sir, at one point of time, hatchback has to come back. Otherwise, the growth rates what we are sustaining right now may not grow, may not remain in line with the market projections after 2026-27. So hatchback has to come back, because the first time buyers has to come from the two-wheeler side to the hatchbacks or the SUV or the small crossover side like Punch and the C3 Citroen or some other vehicles which are in pipeline right now.
Okay, and moving to the two-wheeler part, Nikunj sir, also PVs, I would want to check with you, because retail sales that we talk about, the sales that go from dealerships to the consumers directly, are they moving in parallel with the wholesales, the high dispatches, or either of them is moving ahead and behind? Like, what is the scenario there? If you could, specifically talk about passenger vehicles and two-wheeler retails.
So I think I'll carry it forward from where Gaurav gave up, and I think the wholesales definitely have outpaced retail. And while Gaurav very rightly said that we are coming from a very high base and we are expecting only a single-digit growth in the passenger vehicle market this year, I think each manufacturer, when you speak to them individually, are still talking of a double-digit growth, which means that they want a bigger share of the pie, whatever is available. So obviously, in a scenario like this, there will be a scramble for wholesale. There will be an inventory increase, and that possibly could also result in much higher discounts than the kind of discounts that we are seeing. So I think each industry player says, yes, there is a single-digit growth, but we will definitely grow double-digit. And so obviously, everybody cannot grow double-digit. So I think that's the dichotomy, and please anticipate inventory levels, and please anticipate much higher discount levels than what is going on. Secondly, I think everybody is now fighting for the SUV space, because SUVs globally, if you look at the automotive industry, then I think we are maturing towards what is happening globally, which is moving towards the SUV space. America is the biggest automobile market, and if you analyze the US sales, you'll see that even there, SUVs and MUVs play the biggest role in terms of volumes. The second, of course, in the US is the pickups, which have not yet in India picked up the way they have in the US, and primarily because how pickups are categorized in India, they are still registered only as commercial vehicles and not as personal vehicles. I think if that shift happens even in India, you can see growth even in the pickup segment. Coming to two-wheelers, the good part is that the lower end did start showing some green shoots, starting with the festival season, and it's continuing, but still at a very slow pace. The market seems to be moving towards premium segment. Premium segment, I think, has done extremely well across, but the volumes will come only from entry-level segment. And according to me, there is still a huge amount of potential at the entry level, but I guess the income levels at the entry level are under stress. And unless the government takes some steps to resolve that stress, either by lowering the GST on two-wheelers, specifically entry-level two-wheelers, so make them more affordable, or raising the income levels of the bottom of the pyramid, people who are the target customers for two-wheelers. Unless that happens, I don't think we will ever get the kind of volumes that we have been used to 4 years back, which is the pre-COVID period. Heroes did start growing, but already I think you can see that in March they have dropped down their production. And from a 72 lakh annual production, they're still at around 54 lakh annual production. So, I mean, and I think that's the major gap. And Hero definitely is the champion for entry-level segment. So, I do see growth, but not a very healthy growth even in the two-wheeler market. I think this year will be a moderating year, and the highs that we have seen last year probably will moderate this year.
Right. So just to specify, when you talk about the entry-level two-wheeler, the motorcycles is 100cc motorcycles, right? The mass market motorcycles.
So
Yes.
anything below 125cc, we call it the entry-level segment.
Entry-level, yes. Also, because I see you representing the entire dealer community here. So is the same scenario going on in the passenger vehicle as well? You know, what you're talking about for two-wheelers. The entry-level car makers, how are they doing? Is there an inventory pile-up for the entry-level cars as well?
I think that's very clear. There is an inventory pile-up at the entry level. And I think the clarity comes from the advertisements, the consumer schemes that are getting advertised for entry-level cars. I mean, that's almost 10% of the value of the car. And those kinds of discounts never happen in the auto industry because the gross margins are normally 3 to 5% are the gross margins on automobiles. So if there is a 10% consumer scheme at the entry level, and which all manufacturers seem to be offering, I think it's a very clear indication of an inventory level pile up at the entry level and the stress at the entry level. Somebody like Maruti or a Renault or a Nissan, if they really have to grow in terms of numbers, the entry level numbers have to improve. And I think that stress is very, very visible.
Okay, now next, Arun sir, I want to move to you for three-wheelers and commercial vehicles. But just before that, I want to come back to Mr. Vangaal because you cover the light vehicle production. You also cover the LCVs that we call the light commercial vehicles. A little bit of trend there, like how are they doing? How have you seen them performing during the last fiscal year? Just a little bit of gist there.
I think, Shubhangi, light commercial vehicle, if you see, because they were coming with very high base, and we have seen the post-COVID that there were a lot of e-commerce delivery happened because of the lockdowns, and there was a huge increase in this in the volumes of the LCV side. Now I think that they are a little bit flattish this year for 2% approximately in the production side. So I believe that this trend, they will remain under stress. They will remain more under stress than the PV side because they have a high base, and we do not see such kind of purchasing coming out of the e-commerce again, because the cycle has to repeat after 4 years or 5 years from the e-commerce side, and we have already seen that these kind of purchases has been done by the e-commerce teams. So we are tracking it, but I think when we see it this year, the rural is expected to improve further because we are hearing that there's a better monsoons are expected this year, and then I think the LCV can pick up in the second half. For the first half, I don't see much of the commitment coming from the LCV side.
Okay, and just to be clear, correct me if I'm wrong here, but LCVs for you specify something under, the vehicles under 6 ton, right?
Yes. For LCVs, for LVs, we generally track light vehicles, and which is approximately for 0 to 6 ton, in which the Tata Ace, the Bolero pickup comes, these kind of vehicles. The over 6 ton, it goes to our commercial side, MSCV side.
Right. Thank you so much. And coming to Arun sir now, sir, could you give us a trend towards the commercial vehicle segment as a whole, covering up the small commercial vehicles and the MHCV?
So before I discuss the commercial vehicle, because there will be some indication, I agree with Nikunj said, in passenger vehicles, although people started with very low estimates, 3 to 5% increase, they have slightly increased it now to 7 to 8%. And the aspirations which Nikunj mentioned is double digit. So I think ultimately it will go to 8 to 9%. That's one thing. The other part was the entry level, which was rightly mentioned by him, is a stress point. And two-wheeler market, if you have to make real big jumps, either the incomes have to go up or the vehicle has to be made affordable. And passenger vehicles not impacting that much, but it is going to impact in the long run. That's as far as the passenger vehicle two-wheeler is concerned. Now, as far as commercial vehicles is concerned, you start at the bottom of the pyramid, which is three-wheelers. Now, that is not taken as commercial vehicle, but let's take it as the three-wheeler. That's also used for commercial application. That's been a phenomenal year. And the two highlights of this three-wheeler segment has been, one, if you divide it in two parts, the EV and the non-EV. EV contributes nearly 50% of that market, and it's grown by something like to a phenomenal something like 55%. It's gone towards 6 lakhs, and 6 lakhs has been the sale as far as non-EV is concerned. So one side on EV, you have a growth of 55%, and even in non-EV, you have a growth of 50%. So that's the unsung hero. I mean, it's not bandied about much, but three-wheeler has been a star performer. Now, people may quibble that the three-wheeler EV has been more the low-end electric vehicle, which is not the right lead-acid battery, which is the, lithium-ion battery. That's a different thing. And the unique part in the three-wheeler is, one, they have jumped the technology game very strongly. If you look at three-wheelers, 50% is EV. Within 50% of non-EV, it is 80% is CNG. So effectively, if there is one segment which has moved out of the clutches of petrol and diesel, it is three-wheeler that has grown phenomenally. So that's why I call it the superstar of the auto industry. Now coming to the light commercial vehicle or the LCV, somehow expectation was higher. It's just in 2-3% growth, and as Gaurav mentioned, it's the below 6 ton is not really grown. And also in the heavy commercial vehicle, there were a lot of positive visible signs in the first 6 months. But if you look at the last 3 months, they've petered down. So they also had growth of 2 to 3%. And the slightly worrying part is, if you look at the industry analysts, they expect the industry to be flat or declining. So there are different strokes. Three-wheelers different, small commercial vehicles different. And this last mile connectivity, which was talked a lot. In passenger vehicle, it is evident. In passenger, but the moment you go to load, it's not evident. It's not evident in the LCV. It's not evident in three-wheelers in LCVs also. So that's the discerning part as far as concerned. But three-wheelers will grow, and LCVs and segments, commercial vehicles, it is more of stabilization, because load capacity also is better now. Even the routes have become better, so the turnaround is better. So that is impacting the overall volume. And a lot of people saying that tonnage has gone up. So volumes may look lower, but the tonnage of the vehicle being used is higher. So it's a mixed bag as far as concerned. But I think with the economy overall doing well and more stability politically expected, even that segment should not decline. If even it grows, it should grow to some small percentage.
Right, thank you. So I think we can sum up by saying that for passenger vehicles, one thing is that SUV is going to continue. That's what the consensus of our experts is. And second, a good news for consumers that there are going to be discounts and they're going to continue. And for two-wheelers, there has to be a pickup from the entry-level mass segment. And for commercial vehicles, you mentioned it's a mixed bag. So with economy moving ahead, commercial vehicles should also improve. Now, one big trend for the last fiscal we also observed was the alternative fuels and how the EV story of India is panning out. For passenger vehicles, there are alternative fuels that are working out. For two-wheelers, EVs are picking up, but we have also seen the subsidy scenario last year. So what is your take on this, on the entire EV story? The government has put out a target of 30% by 2030. Are we still at it? Are we still, what more can be done to reach that? Where do we stand right now? Starting with Mr. Vangaal.
See, I can only talk about the passenger vehicle or the EV market, right? In the passenger vehicle market, I think we have very meager percent penetration of the EVs right now, approximately 2%, and we are expecting it should double by this year, because there are a lot of product action is expecting this year. So this year, as I mentioned, the Tata is expected to launch multiple products on the EV side, like Curve is expected this year from them. Then Mahindra is also going forward with their InGlow platform this year. So we may see, because of the product action, there will be an increase in the volumes, and that's why we are expecting a double of the penetration level from 2% to 4%. It should happen in this year in 2024. Now, if you wanted to ask me the long-term perspectives of the EVs, I think EV has to come, but there is a great competition, which is a very tight competition coming from the hybrids now. Even though hybrids has been charged with the higher taxation rates, but if you see recent numbers coming out of the hybrids of the only with the two models, which is Innova High Cross and the Grand Vitara full hybrid, even though we have a couple of models more, but they're adding only meager volumes to this. These numbers are phenomenal. And the booking rates, which is going around for the Innova High Cross and the Grand Vitara full hybrid, it definitely indicates towards the better competition going forward within the HEVs and the EVs. We have seen some of the car makers are highly inclined towards the EVs because they're strategizing their complete plans on the EV side. But yes, the trend which is coming out, which has come out last year, it has a potential. It definitely has a potential to grow, and we may see multiple products coming out from the HEVs from beyond 2026-27. But for this year, I think EVs is better to go because we don't have any product. We are not expecting any major product coming out of any of the car maker in 2024-25.
What is your take on the electric two-wheelers probably? How do you see, that panning out?
So I think two-wheelers is low-hanging fruit like three-wheelers was, and the total cost of ownership of EV two-wheeler is definitely very, very favorable as compared to an IC engine. But the uncertainty about the FAME scheme, I think they are continuing for 3 months, but almost half the subsidy. So I think almost all manufacturers will need to re-strategize on how they want to place their products, because if they do not bring down the prices and if they pass on the entire reduction of FAME subsidy to the consumer, then two-wheelers are likely to go up by about 15,000-20,000 rupees per vehicle. And that makes it a little tough. And I think ownership, the initial ownership cost resistance will come in if the manufacturers do not re-strategize how they want to place their two-wheelers after reduction in subsidy. Two, I think they cannot have long-term plans because what the government will do after June is still not very clear. It's still uncertain on what will be the FAME subsidy or the FAME scheme post-June and how it's likely to get rolled out. I think those are questions which will keep both the two-wheeler and the three-wheeler industry under some kind of uncertainty in terms of growth numbers. Your question about reaching 30% target by 2030, I think is a dream. I mean, it's a dream. Very unlikely that we reach anywhere near it. I mean, 30% is very tall. I think even half of that doesn't seem likely by 2030. And then, of course, the changing scenario in terms of what the government policy is going to be. I think if the government policy on electric vehicles is not clear and is not long-term, I think the fresh investment which is required in the EV space will definitely get receded.
Okay. And Arun sir, what do you think? Like, what is your take on the government's earlier target of, reaching 30% EVs by 2030?
So, before I get to this 30%, I agree with Nikunj. I mean, I would say it's a dream. I said Delhi, na keval dur hai, bahut hi dur hai. So that's as far as the 30% is concerned. But I don't consider it a bad thing. The point is there are alternative fuels available now which are coming to the hybrid is one thing which you mentioned clearly. And there are flex fuels we are talking of. So if the objective of the government is to reduce pollution and to reduce the fuel bill, then there are other technologies without the cost involved. And I think one thing which we must keep in mind as far as passenger vehicles concerned, in the FAME policy, we only had subsidy for commercial application, that's taxis. That also has got discontinued from 1st April. So effectively, you have no FAME policy as far as passenger four-wheelers is concerned. The other thing which I think is, and hybrid, as the Gaurav mentioned, it's only present 2-3 models. It has a good potential because you get the benefit of EV in terms of lower cost of maintenance emissions without the challenge of the range. But I think one segment which has got lost out, and I call it the Ajay Devgan of the 90s, when the Shah Rukh Khan, the Salman Khans, and the Hrithik Roshans were riding the thought, there was one hero was growing, and that is the CNG. CNG last year has been 16%. It is 8 times or 7 times more than what hybrid has been, EV has been. And this with CNG pumps increasing, the reach increasing, the Parekh report, which has put CNG pricing into a very clear area. If prices have gone down, it will probably not go up in the next 2-3 years because of the formula. So that is also an application which will go up. And that's the one area. But as far as EVs is concerned, and with this GST benefit which you enjoy, is 5% against 28 or 40 or 50, I don't think government has that coffers. To that extent, EV has a very, very difficult task as far as passenger vehicle is concerned. Even if you have enough more launches. Today also you have 10 manufacturers. You have 5 launches. Goes 3-4%. But it's neither here nor there. It's not going to be anywhere. And as Nikunj mentioned, it's far away. So that's going to be a challenge. So people will bet on other technologies. Two-wheeler concerned, yes, EV, because the only alternative petrol is EV. But there the problem is that in terms of design, the two-wheeler designs for motorcycles is very complex or very costly. So you have hardly any presence in the motorcycle segment. And as Nikunj, who's a total expert on two-wheelers, will tell you that 2/3 of the market is motorcycles. So if 65% is motorcycles and your EV contribution today is hardly 2% within the EVs, between scooters and motorcycles, so somehow the motorcycle thing has to get cracked. The motorcycle, the rural. So that otherwise the penetration may look very good in scooters, but in the total two-wheeler game, that will be a challenge. And the only difference between two-wheeler and three-wheeler is that the usage or the cost of operations, the payback is much faster in commercial application as compared to two-wheeler. But two-wheelers is still got. And one of the other challenges, which was that we will get into, in trucks, we'll get into EVs, but we are only getting into buses. Buses contribute 10%. They're also with 20%. It's neither here nor there. Now we're talking about hydrogen fuel, which is a good alternative. So EV, if you ask me, three-wheelers and two-wheelers, that's going to be the stay of EVs at the moment. If you look at last year figures, it was 96% of EVs sold were two-wheelers and three-wheelers, which I think will continue. There'll be a rainbow coalition as far as passenger vehicles concerned. Hydrogen fuel will come in commercial vehicles. And CNG is the new star which will come in three-wheeler. And we are talking of two-wheelers. We are even talking of getting in two-wheelers. So that's the flux which is happening.
To add to what Mr. Malhotra said is that, yes, CNG is the shining star, but CNG distribution network continues to be a challenge. The network is improving where CNG is already there. But where CNG is not reached at all, I think that's the challenge, because it's a very capital-intensive project to increase CNG distribution. And wherever there is no CNG, I think that's the challenge that most people are fighting with. I think the concentration is on the NCR and some of the polluting 14 cities that the government talks about. But if the CNG network does improve, the distribution network does improve, then immediately I think CNG is the solution to the problem of pollution.
So I'll add to Nikunj, I mean, what he said, the points of CNG. But if you look at the network CNG increase, it has not been talked about. The network has improved by 40%, number of stations have gone up. 30% sales increase have gone up. I'm not saying it will go to 40% or 50% industry, but 15% of our industry is a large volume. And all the big players, whether it's Maruti, whether it's Tata, whether it's Hyundai, they all are trying to get their CNG act. So not that is the solution. So as far as passenger vehicles are concerned, there will be different fuels will coexist. Flex fuels will be there, hybrid will be there. So it will not be one fuel. And diesel will always have a challenge, because with this BS6 norms and which we have, we say that the emissions and real drive emissions are there. Plus the report which came that diesel vehicles should be banned, passenger vehicles 2027. So diesel will continue to take a hit. So will diesel be replaced by petrol or by CNG? Flex fuels is there, or by hybrid or by EV? The game is up. But clearly, EV is not going to be the big solution for it. It will be a segment, not the big solution.
Yes, to sum up, what we have got is that for PVs, we could, there are multiple alternative fuel options available for EVs and hybrids and CNG taking up. For two-wheelers, EVs are going to take a lead, but subsidy is going to matter a lot there. And but together, the common consensus that we have reached is that we are very far from the government's earlier target of EV reaching 30% by 2030. Now moving ahead, just one last thing about the regulatory norms and technology changes that we have seen in the industry. Arun sir, can we begin with you? Like, if you would want to talk about.
So one thing which has not been talked is the CAFE norms, this corporate average fuel efficiency which government is driving. They already did calculation. So if your product portfolio is only petrol and diesel, you will not meet it, and government is planning some big fines on it. So effectively, this regulatory norm, which is more a measurement norm, because once you measure something and if you find a deviation, then you will impose a certain fine, penalty, or a certain reward. So that is one norm which has run got date. It's already on. The question is some figures are being calculated. So CAFE norms, which will be driving on fuel efficiency, weight will carry. So that's the big norm which will make a difference in the time to come. And all the alternative technologies will take a byproduct from there. The second part is the 6 airbags which came in. I mean, first it was thought to be mandatory. It is not mandatory. It is optional. To that extent, it's all right. I mean, companies, but are still moving to 6 airbags, 4 airbags, because the cost of the airbags is going down. And the real drive emissions, which are important, will have a further hit on diesel because the prices are going up there. So regulatory are more in this area. And then there are safety things which government keeps talking of, which they haven't done. So that's the way I look at the regulatory ecosystem. So government will be clearly driving cleaner fuel technologies, whether it is through the production linked incentive, whether through the advanced cell chemistry, whether through the CAFE norms, so various, or whether through the GST route. So government will use all these 4 armors in their weapon to drive more fuel, better, more fuel, you can say more cleaner technologies. So that's the regulatory environment which I see today.
Yeah, and Mr. Vangaal, would you like to add something to this?
So I will add only one thing here, what Mr. Arun Malhotra has already mentioned. But yes, only one thing I want to add. This is another norm which is running around, the QCO order. There's a quality control orders which is impacting the production suppliers. And I think this norm we have to see that how the government will implement this, what kind of delay we can see, because it's a very challenging norm for every supplier and for every car maker. So we have to keep a track on this for this financial year. As far as the features are concerned, I think not on the regulatory side, the feature side, I think the connected cars are already taken over everything. We are also talking about the ADAS, which is getting popular among the car makers. We have seen with the XUV 700, we have now seen with the Seltos and the Creta. I think these kind of technology is going to get adopted by the car makers in the next facelifts or the mid-cycle enhancements also, and also with the new generation vehicles. So these kind of 2 things I would like to add here only.
Okay, and now coming to the last section of the show, to talk about the next quarter or the next fiscal, we have seen, different OEMs giving different projections for their own segments, growth for the next fiscal. So how do you see the next, Nikunj sir, I would like to ask you first, how do you see the next quarter per se?
So normally the first quarter of the financial year is a very critical quarter for the auto industry. And what happens in the first quarter, in fact, almost determines how the entire year will go, because the first quarter coincides with the biggest thing is coincides with the harvest money coming into the hands of rural India, and how the rural India reacts to this particular harvesting season becomes critical for all segments, specifically two-wheelers, passenger vehicles, and LCVs and MNHCVs. But the spoil spot that I can see in the first quarter could be the election season. Election season has its own challenges. And because of the election season, I guess there will be some impact on demand, because I think across India, vehicles are requisitioned for election duties. So people desist from buying new vehicles during election season. There is a lot of restriction on cash movement, specifically in rural India. That becomes a very, very big impediment for the customers. And so I think the spoil spot is going to be the elections, not the outcome of the elections, but the process of elections, which will continue up to May end. So otherwise, I see the first quarter is good because the harvest is good. The agriculture commodity prices are holding up very well. So the net surplus with the farmer seems to be positive. The government policy seems to be good because all policies are framed at the farmer getting much better income than he would. So I would want to keep my fingers crossed and hope that the first quarter turns out to be what it normally is in the auto industry.
Right. And coming to you, Arun, what do you expect of the next quarter?
So I think what Nikunj mentioned very correctly, the The election is I would say, a dampener. It's not a spoilsport because it ultimately that sale will get covered up sometimes in the next quarter. What will not happen in May, June. But I think, as he mentioned rightly, that the festival, the agriculture crop prices are good. The sentiment is positive. The Navratras, which were used to happen in March, are in April. So overall, first quarter may not be a great quarter, but I think it can get taken care of as we move ahead. So fingers crossed, as Nikunj mentioned. I'll also go by the fingers crossed. But April will be wins and losses, so probably it will not be a great quarter as far as concerned.
Not the best, right? And Mr. Vangaal, what is your take on that? Because S&P also forecast next quarter.
See, in our understanding, specifically for the production side, I think we will see some of the correction in the second quarter. We take it's the second quarter of 2024 or the first quarter of financial year. The number should be lower than the quarter one of 2024. Okay, the reason is that this is the seasonality impact, but this year we have seen the production has done better than the anticipated in the first quarter, and we are seeing that there's a push towards the dealers on the wholesale side also, and retail sales are not much stronger as the wholesale sales, and we have seen the numbers from the FADA also, which has come around 50 to 55 day inventory levels are there. So I believe that in the quarter one of financial year 2024, there will be some correction in the production schedules, and this we are expecting right now. But yes, overall the growth momentum should continue as a quarter base. But yes, there should be some correction coming out in the next quarter.
Okay, and for the fiscal year, if I have to ask all three of you to give, your growth projection, or I mean, it's going to be based on the high base of last year, and OEMs are saying a single digit, but what a lower single digit or a higher single digit? What is your take, Mr. Vangaal, for the next fiscal year 24-25?
So we are expecting 2 to 3% as of now for the fiscal year, and we need to see that how the election goes around. Even though most of the analysts, most of the companies has already analyzed that the stability will remain in the country. But yes, we need to analyze the post-election also one more time. So it will be very early to comment as of now. But yes, 3% what we are expecting, this should be there for the financial year.
3% you're saying for the passenger vehicles,
Passenger,
right?
LV, light vehicle market.
Light vehicle market.
Light vehicle.
Arun sir, what is your take on this for the entire wheel industry?
I'm more optimistic than Gaurav. I think passenger vehicles should be, I mean, we started with 4-5, but I think it should be around 7 to 8% because we still have, and small commercial vehicles, I would tend to agree that we probably will be in 2 to 3%, but passenger vehicles, I'm 7 to 8%. And as far as two-wheelers is concerned, I think it has got a good chance to reach a double digit. The factors Nikunj mentioned, things are positive on the rural market agriculture. So 10% on two-wheelers, 10 to 11, 7 to 8 on passenger vehicles, light commercial vehicles, 2 to 3 or maybe neutral. That's the way I look at it.
Nikunj sir, what is your take on the retail sales per se? Like, how do you see them panning out?
So overall, this year is definitely going to have a very moderating impact on retail, and the highs that we have seen in the last couple of years, I think the corrections will happen. And overall, if the entire industry grows by a high single-digit growth, I'll be more than happy. I'd want to keep my fingers crossed again on that, because there are stress levels that you can already experience across segments, from two-wheelers to heavy commercial vehicles. There is stress that we can experience already. So I think it's going to be single digit overall for the entire industry. If it becomes a high single digit, I'll be more than happy. Passenger vehicles, I would go in between what Gaurav has said and what you have said. You are talking of 8%, Gaurav is talking about 3%. I'll say 5% is a moderate figure that we can look at. And I think that 5%, I'm totally banking upon all the new launches which are coming in. And new launches have always played a very key role in the market growth. And there are a number of new launches and very exciting launches that we are expecting this year. And I think those new launches will push up the market from the 3% that Gaurav is talking about. But there are others which will take a hit, Therefore, it will get moderated around
5 to 6%. So I agree. I mean, also temper it down from 8 to 6, 7 after hearing Nikunj. He's a wise man, so one has to go with that. But I'll still go above 5. I'll say 6, 6.
No,
Yes.
Even I believe it's a 3 to 5%, but officially we are at the 3% right now. Even I believe it should be between anything, because this year can be uncertain after election. We have to be very cautious, and we have some. I said the regulatory challenges are also there, and the geopolitical situations are not also great globally. So any time if we have a supply chain impact anywhere in the world, it is going to impact you. So that's why we are quite cautious this year, and we are coming out of the high base. So 3% looks good to us right now.
Okay. And Nikunj sir, specifically for the two-wheeler growth, if you would have to give a growth percentage.
So two-wheeler, again, I would say a high single digit. I'd peg it down to 8 or 9% for two-wheelers. And that will, again, only happen if the entry level kicks off. Because entry level contributes almost 70% to the total overall two-wheeler market. A lot of growth has been coming from EVs, but EVs, again, because of the change in policies, I think there is a lot of uncertainty about. There have been a lot of pre-buying in EVs in March because of the FAME subsidy getting reduced. So I think even there I'm seeing a moderate growth and not the kind of growth that we saw this financial year. A moderate growth in EV two-wheelers. Therefore, an 8 or 9% growth in two-wheelers would be a very good growth, seeing the present circumstances.
Right. So to sum up, I think we are all expecting growth for this fiscal year as well, but on the high base of last year, it would be an average of about 5% in PVs and about 7-8% in two-wheelers, but the rest we also know after the first quarter is over, when the election season is done with. So thank you to everyone. Thank you for taking out your time and making this, and thank you again. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot for having us, Shubhangi.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.